Now a point. Okay.
All right. You're all my children now. Welcome back to Picture Safari 2, Cinemastein's Revenge. And today I'm joined by my good friends Spike Greene from the Film Geek Collective and the Silver Screen Slasher.
Subscribers beware. You're in for a scare. Tonight.
Now today we'll be reviewing Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Came out the year 1985, just 1 year after the events, and literally, yeah, just 1 year at least after the first movie came out. And just, of course, to say this in a more perfect sort of way, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, let's just say, this one doesn't really have a good reputation. Not just by the way the film was made, but just I guess how it's depicted.
Most people consider it to be the strangest of the Nightmare on Elm Street films.
And no offense, but even some of the goofiest and silliest, because no offense, but this has some of the silliest looking effects, and sometimes even over the top acting.
That is up until Freddy's.
Some people even consider this one the worst, but I sure don't. I think it's all right. But would I say I love it or anything like Dream Warriors or whatever? No, sorry, not even close.
Yeah. To be fair, though, most people would. If anyone would ask if someone were to ask what the worst Elm Street film was, it would probably be a three-way tie between Elm Street's 5, 6, and the remake.
Speaking of, but yeah, let's now I guess dive into the plot. And if in case you don't mind, is it if I explain a bit of it first?
Of course.
Well, we'll just say spoilers, some language in this review, and also I just want to briefly say something about the film now that we're in the spoiler territory. The fact is that this film, it very much has a lot of themes around gay people, and it was it was good that a film of the 80s had that sort of thing, but at the same time it developed some very regressive attitudes. Sorry. Okay, so I'll explain that later. Go on, Silver or Cinemastein.
Yeah,
let's count some sheep.
Freddy's Revenge, of course. The plot of this one takes place here just, I believe, a few months or years after the events of the original.
It actually takes
this
place
time around, we meet our new main protagonist of the film, Jesse, who's played by who, Silver?
Mark Patton. And as for how long this takes place after
Mark
the first film, it takes place a total of 5 years.
Okay. But he recently just moved into Elm Street, and coincidentally, he also moved into the house that our main protagonist from the previous film, which is, of course, Nancy Thompson, of course, just a bit of a reminder, though, who is played by Leather Hangenkamp or something, however you say it.
Heather Langenkamp.
Heather Langenkamp. Sorry, I mispronounced it. Okay.
It's pronounced Langenkamp.
Yeah, Langenkamp. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I stumble over my words sometimes. That was me. It's okay.
Let's just say, and just to pretty much summon the whole plot, at least on how I would summon the whole thing, pretty much, of course, weird things start to happen throughout the old house, the classic Elm Street home, that at some point Freddy takes control over, Freddy is back and slowly starts to come back by taking control of Jesse. And pretty much makes him does his bidding, or pretty much becomes Jesse at times.
When it comes to the thing about the Elm Street films is most of the films just take logic, stuff it in a book, and throw it out the window. Because Freddy Krueger, for the most part, defies all logic, especially with how many rules it Olsen believes is that come from him. For example, in this film, if in order for him to actually kill people, he needs to do it by possessing Jesse, which I find kind of weird.
One quick little thing I also want to mention, though. Really, of course, Freddy Krueger obviously is played by the great Robert Englund once again. He's the only one from the original, at least, returning in the second movie, of course. And not only that, he actually, I feel like he kind of plays two characters for once in this movie. Also a bus driver.
That
that you
was
see in the
him.
first few minutes
Yeah,
of
he
the
made a
film and
yeah.
literally the last few seconds or minutes of the film.
Yeah, basically, if you look close enough, he actually cameos as the bus driver.
Yeah. Speaking of, as we all know, Robert Englund played Freddy through most of the franchise, I would say, of course, except for Wes
The piece of
Craven's
shit
New
remake.
Nightmare and the atrocious remake.
Well, actually, he does
But
play Nightmare.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Seriously though, fuck this remake.
Yeah, screw it. Anyway, next I think we should get to the characters. Of course, let's first start off with Jesse. To me, in this one, Jesse, of course, no offense, unlike the others, I just never found him at least one of my favorite, or at least one of the most memorable characters of the franchise. In fact, when I think of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, at least when it came to main protagonists, well, I mostly just think of Nancy Thompson or even some of the characters from Dream Warriors. But
Yeah, like Kristen
him,
Parker or
he's
Alice.
just to me so forgettable that most of the time I don't even really think of him when it comes to this franchise.
To be fair though, it's not your fault you forgot about Jesse the Scream King.
And he was
And
one
of
of the
course,
first
he never came back
that
in the sequels.
Nope.
he was one of the first heroes that was termed Scream King from the traditional term Scream Queen, like, you know, Halloween's Laurie Strode or Nancy Thompson from Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 3. But yeah, Scream King is relatively rare. You have like Jesse from this movie, and you have Ash from the Evil Dead franchise, especially from the first two.
Oh yeah.
Spike,
One
could you be
quick
more
thing as
specific
well-
as to what exactly a Scream Queen is for those who are uninitiated?
Basically, it's a trope in slasher films, just in case you may not be in the know of it, anyone who's watching. It's basically, you know, a whole bunch of people get killed off. And then there's this one, it's usually a girl who survives. For example, Nancy like, you know, and then, yeah, Nancy in the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, she survives and has to try to defeat the villain. And so, yeah, that's basically a Scream Queen. And basically any actress who plays, or in Scream King's case, you know, yeah, anyway. But yeah, any actor who plays a role survives to the end and gets to try to kill off the villain of the film. It's a sorry, I hiccuped there. It's a trope in slashers, and basically, it's like, well, it would be without it.
One quick little thing I also want to mention that I honestly find so fake looking even just by looking at it. But one thing that always I just never got about this movie is that for some reason, whenever someone is in bed or they wake up, of course, like Jesse, most of the time, really, good God, is it just me or some of the characters in this film are sweating like so like damn much? Like they're sweating so much that it looks like they just at least went into space real quickly and got pretty damn close to the sun and then came back to Earth. Like, or it even looks like the actors when they were on set before they shot the scenes, they poured buckets of water all over their heads or whatever.
You should.
Like seriously, it looks so fake. I mean, even whenever it was a hot night for me and I slept in bed, for example. Don't get me wrong, I did sweat, but not that much. Jesus me, that looks so fake.
Stein, are you sure the Freddy just didn't leave the boiler on?
Yeah, I did hear about they have a little thermostat problem, but
yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention.
Still, I don't think people like that at least sweat in real life, at least that much.
Yeah, of course. It should be pointed out that Jesse's family actually now lives in Nancy's house, 1428 Elm Street.
No offense, Silva, but I actually pretty much already mentioned that, like very early
Oh
on.
right, sorry.
Moving on. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Still a little bit brain dead after getting out of my coffin. Remember?
Yeah. Next, of course, let's come to the legend himself, Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. Well, just like always, he has all the has some cool one-liners, is scary as hell, and just pulls it off as well as usual.
One thing that should be pointed out though is that for every single different Freddy, for every single Nightmare film, Freddy's appearance always changes throughout the films. And for this version, he looks all wet and meaty and gross, which I kind of dig a more nasty looking Freddy, especially with the fact that he's no longer wearing his iconic finger knife glove. Instead, the blades are physically attached to his hand.
It's like Spider-Man and the invention web shooter thing versus the organic web shooter in the Sam Raimi films.
You know what I actually also like though? It's just so cool that The only effect that I did like that they used with Freddy, and I will just spoil this now, but when Freddy comes out of Jesse's, belly and just, I know it looks no offense, a little bit, it does look a little bit weird though at times, but God, it is awesome. Even just probably the most painful part about it, I honestly thought was just seeing those knives, you know what I mean, like coming out of Jesse's fingernails, and I'm just
Oh,
like,
yeah, and
ugh.
its arm is all bursting out and oozing. Oh, sick nasty.
Oh
I mean,
yeah. No
what's
offense as
what's
well, but
horror
that is
without the
unfortunately the saddest things though about the effects side of it. Most of them are pretty poorly done, like not very cool looking, like just very random, or in fact some of them are even just so silly, and we'll get to some of them in a little bit.
Yeah, let's not forget. Yeah, let's not forget that one dream where Freddy actually ripped part of the flesh of his head off and exposed his freaking brain. That was my favorite.
So I think this film only has like 3 really cool effects I would consider.
Now we should get on to the love interest of the film. In this case, Jesse's kind of girlfriend, Lisa.
To me, she's just no offense, but she's a bit bland.
Yeah, honestly though, I thought she was. Honestly though, she's just one of those average girlfriends that no one's really gonna care that much about. In fact,
She never, like Jesse, she never appears
movie.
into another installment of the franchise.
Yeah, to be fair, she's also she's really just so passe about Jesse admitting to murder later on in the film.
And while we're on the subject of love interests and stuff, I want to point out I've actually compiled some notes here about the film while I was watching it. So
Cool.
I think that with the I think that in terms of not even just the relationships, but I mentioned earlier this film has a major gay theme. I think it's a cult classic within some circles because they appreciate, even though it was not a very good depiction per se, that it was a depiction at all. Because it's like people who they like that people of any group, they might be underrepresented at the time, and then so yeah, the main actor in fact was closeted during the production, and he was afraid for his career because at the time in the 80s, well, we all know that they were really bad toward gay people.
Yeah, it was a really fucked up time.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that the arc in this film reflects the homophobia of the 80s because, in the start, it's like the typical homophobia in the football field. Oh, the coach goes to that queer SMN, sorry,
Oh
SMN,
shit, Adidas coming.
and that, hang on. So that sort of thing with the homophobia like that, it's just really dated, and they're like, well, oh yeah, they're trying to depict gay people as bad who will go for, and I quote the movie when I say this, when they say, oh, he'll go for pretty boys like you. They paint gay men as predatory, which of course is a horrific stereotype, of course.
Of
And
course.
the whole film seems to be a metaphor for the repression of gay identity. A man who's closeted, and it's like everyone's saying, fight this, and it just repression everywhere, and that's why I think it's regressive. Also, because I think that the film really, I know it tried to represent the story of a, well, it never comes out and says that the main character's gay, but I always thought the main character was gay, that he was trying to be impressed with Lisa just because he wanted to hide himself, repress himself, and it just, hang on, and it just really didn't work. The whole thing came across off as homophobic, it just in the way that they kept telling him to repress it. And I know it was like the whole, on the surface, it was all Freddy is in him, and then, and Freddy acts predatory too. He says stuff like, I need you, Jesse, and he's holding the finger as if it's some sort of, temptation thing that'll take him away from normality. And yeah, stuff like they say stuff like, I'm not into this. They'll take me away. When he's with Lisa, and yeah, I think that he's definitely trying to repress it. And then I think again they depict Freddy as predatory when he says in the film, talking about Freddy, he's inside me and he wants to take me again. They paint the whole thing as they paint the men as predatory, and it's just wrong. But keeping in mind that it's a time capsule of the time, and while I appreciate they tried to represent it in the 80s, they just did not do a very good job. So.
Speaking of Jesse's actor Mark Patton, though, about 34 years later, there was a documentary release called Scream Queen: My Nightmare on Elm Street, which actually shows Mark Patton's experience with the film and how it affected his life, if in a very rough way. Honestly, though, I haven't seen the documentary myself. I've just seen trailers for it. But I will say that Mark Patton, throughout all the times he shows up, he looks genuinely sad and terrified, though. Like, this film very emotionally affected him, as well as psychologically. And it actually makes me feel kind of sorry if he experienced any real life harshness after this film's release.
It makes me feel very sorry for him. I mean, the fact that he couldn't live how he wanted, it's terrible. It's so sad.
I'm sorry, give me a moment.
Sorry, is it if I switch the topic now?
All right.
Yes, please do. Yes, please do before I start crying out my mask.
Because
okay.
we gotta talk about other things in the movie too, of course.
One thing I also forgot to talk about to say about Freddy is that although one of the few things that I do like about Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is this is when every good sequel, at least I think they should do, is when it comes to a specific storyline, they expand on the storyline at least of Freddy in this one. We mostly though find out how he kidnapped and lured the children and how he killed them. Just real quickly to sum them up, they find out that he used to work at a power plant, and what Freddy would do was, of course, take kids with him, and then he would bring them there and kill them.
He would specifically lead them to the boiler room before he killed them.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, also another thing that I want to get to as well that I just find. Here's now the two little nitpicks, obviously, that I have with the film so far, at least, that I could spot that I never liked. Besides, the thing that Spike just explained, think about it, that they did very well. So that's 3, I guess. But the other 2 is, first off is, Nancy's diary. You want to know why? Well, if you don't know, from all the people who saw the original, not once did they ever established in the first film that Nancy had a diary, or there wasn't even one scene with her writing in a diary. So this really comes out of nowhere. They just like, oh well, Nancy didn't have a diary in the first movie, but sure, we can throw it in.
This has been another continuity error.
And I actually don't count this movie as part of the continuity. I mean, you can watch it, first of all, one, that's a continuity error, yes. But second of all, it affects nothing in Dream Warriors from what I can remember. And yeah, sure, stuff carried first, but then you could easily delete the second from continuity and no issues.
That is true. Yeah. Most people who have seen the Nightmare franchise.
Okay, one at a time, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was still kind of talking. Also, second is that, Nancy, right, obviously in the first film, as we all know, people said that, of course, she went, batshit insane. But you see, to me, the reason why I don't really think that's, of course, why I don't believe that, because as we all know, yes, I know people in town, obviously, herself, they thought she was very crazy, but then after, for example, what her father just saw, I mean, come on, it's got to be pretty legit. I mean, she didn't cause them. And also another thing that they pretty much got wrong is that they said her mother was killed in the living room. Guys, I'm pretty sure near the last few minutes, in fact, even in the climax of the film, she died in her bedroom. So
that's right.
That's wrong too.
Just another reason why.
One more quick thing I want to establish is warning there for all of you who don't like seeing animals get killed in films. Yeah, 2 little birds get killed in this.
Yeah, to be more specific, you know what? I'm not gonna go into the details of it.
Mm-mm.
And even though I like scary movies, even I have my boundaries, and animal cruelty is one of them.
Leave the animals.
I just don't like
it. That's what I say. I don't like it either.
Furthermore, no animals were harmed in the making of this review.
Whew.
Now, let's discuss something that I'm pretty sure we all want to talk about. We each have our own favorite scenes of the movie, and I feel like we should just discuss them all.
Or as I like to call, at least from what I'm thinking of, this is the LOL moments.
Or rather, the movie's greatest hits. Why don't we
First
start
off
with
is
you?
Love.
this is one that I really want to so badly mention first. That is, no offense, but as I said before, this film just has some of the funniest and no offense, one of the funniest at least death scenes ever, and just just some of the silliest and funniest and goofiest moments. Okay, first off, Jesse's over the top, by the way, Looney Tunes gym teacher, right? Because he is a bit of a Looney Tunes in this. He gets tied up in the showers, right? And because he forced Jesse to have a shower, but anyway, guess what happens? Freddy somehow makes him gets his shirt off and then pulls down, I believe, his pants or whatever or something like that. And guess what? This film, by the way, has a weird fascination with butts. I swear, you see more than one. But what's so hilarious is that he starts grabbing a few towels and slapping him right in the butt.
Oh
Oh
man!
my god!
Oh man! Coach
Oh,
Snyder's getting towel whipped.
I laughed hysterically when I saw that. At least when he was slapping his butt.
Fair.
Yeah, it hurts when you're getting towel whipped.
I mean, I
I
didn't
mean, it's
find.
just so goofy the way it's done. But then the last, few minutes of it, I will admit, is then just the good old, gory Nightmare on Elm Street fun.
Yeah.
It did seem a little bit silly. I will admit, it did seem a little bit silly for an Elm Street movie to have something of the sort. I think they were trying to. I think that I get what they were trying to go for with the homoeroticism there, but at the same time, I think that they let subtext become text. In maybe I think not that they weren't that heavy-handed with it earlier, but or even later, but it's just well,
especially with the fact that Coach Snyder actually gets attacked by all of his sports equipment. Mostly just balls, though.
That is kind of funny how he's just throwing random sports equipment. And besides, one big issue I have with this movie, apart from the poor rep, that is Freddy coming into the real world. I mean, really, that breaks all logic. He's meant to be a dream killer, and it goes through to the real world. It's not like he should be supposed to possess people or that sort of thing.
Well, to be fair though, Schneider does go out in a cool way. After Freddy slashes him across the back, blood actually starts spraying out of the shower heads, which is actually a pretty cool scene. Despite the mass.
Effect, and a surprisingly simple effect it would be to pull off. All you would need to do would be to put red materials through the shower.
And after Freddy kills Schneider, all the steam pulls away, and we reveal Jesse with the Freddy glove. What?
I mean, next LOL moment, I just think it's so funny the way it's done because you see, lately as on this scene, Jesse's been having quite a few very scary moments, obviously with Freddy, and Freddy's been giving him a hard time, and it's supposed to be a serious moment, but he gets pissed off with I believe a guy named Ron or something.
Yeah, who is Jesse's best friend.
Yeah. Anyway, they're eating lunch, and he's like, "Just shut up, Ron." And what's so funny is that Ron gets upset, but he has food still stuffed in his mouth, and he's like, "What do you want me for?" Wow, dude. Real dramatic moment there, guys. Good
Come on,
job.
Dude. Come on. Didn't your mother teach you it's rude to talk with your mouth full?
Speaking of, this is a little true, but seriously, kids, never talk with your mouth full.
And I believe it's time we get up to my favorite scene of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Hey, let's discuss the pool party massacre. This is to be honest though, most of the films that Freddy's been in have had pretty low body counts for him. But if you want to see it and go on a full on frenzy, buckle up because this is the movie for you. See, after Freddy eventually pops out of Jesse, he eventually kills Ron. He then crashes through a door and just pops up Lisa's pool, oh, just to slaughter a whole bunch of teens.
Mm.
I know that most people don't like Freddy being in the real world, but when this scene pops up, I say fuck your logic and enjoy this scene.
I mean, all the same, it's interesting to see Freddy going through all the people like that in his full evil prime, but at the
as
same.
well as busting out all of his tricks.
By the way, now another kind of funny moment slash dumb moment, because it's more of a dumb moment. But what I find is, and this is how I compared it, right? But one of the teenagers, after seeing, of course, a whole bunch of his friends killed, right? They're cornered by Freddy, obviously, in the party.
He tries to
And here's what's
negotiate
funny.
with Freddy.
He tries to reason with him, saying, "It's okay, just don't, you know, we're not going to hurt you, whatever." But what I'm trying to say is, and this is what I literally said when I was watching that movie. I'm like, kid, it's Freddy's is not toothless from How to Train Your Dragon. You can't train him.
Yeah.
All right.
The kid says he's here to help.
Freddy Krueger, for crying out loud. He's not going to care.
Yeah, especially when the kid says. Yeah, especially when a kid says, "I'm here to help." I love Freddy's response.
Oh, hold on,
fucker.
Yeah. Stay calm, Freddy. It's okay. Good, Freddy. Good, Freddy. Close down. Good boy. Good boy.
Yeah, Freddy and I pretty much. Mr. Krueger and I pretty much had the same response to this reasoning. Help yourself, fucker.
I think I can do it in the Freddy voice. Help yourself, fucker.
Or here's mine. Help yourself, fucker.
And here's mine. Help yourself, fucker. Then he slashes him and knocks him.
And as well, during that scene, Freddy says as well, another one of the probably one of his most coolest lines in the film. You are my children now. Now,
and
one last silly moment that I want to actually talk about in the party scene is, because I just think the way it was done, it's just so funny. Where Lisa and Jesse are making out, and Jesse sticks as I like to call it, a very long blue tongue / Freddy tongue.
Oh, come on, Freddy. You should at least wait until second base before you make out with her.
I mean, that was again meant to be a dramatic moment, but came across as goofy, quite goofy.
Well, yes, what I'm trying to say, it's goofy.
By the way, the film's campy tone doesn't help with New Line Cinema executive Bob Shea making a cameo.
Oh, I didn't notice it. Wow.
He actually makes a cameo as a bartender in an S&M bar.
Oh.
Now, since I can't really think of anything else to talk about Silver, would you like to at least so far start off with talking about most of the climax?
All right. All right. Now we're going to be talking about the rest of now we're going to be talking about at the ending of Nightmare on Elm Street 2: Freddy's Revenge. If you don't want spoilers, skip to the end of the video.
This is a spoiler review. Like, we spoiled most of the film, so why not stick around?
My other option is go watch the goddamn movie. What do you listen to us for?
Okay, come on, please. Okay.
All right. Enough jokes. Let's get into the dead meat. So Lisa, so after Freddy, he exits the pool party by walking through a hedge wall and leaving it a gaping hole of fire. Lisa chases after Freddy / Jesse in Jesse's car, which in the movie is nicknamed the Deadly Dinosaur, mainly because of how much smoke it plumes out. And anyway, she gets to the power plant where Freddy used to work at, and on her way in, she walks into possibly the only WTF moment in the movie, where a pair of dogs...
another one of the goofiest looking effects or whatever the film.
Yeah.
Dogs wearing baby masks.
Wearing some creepy as fuck masks. I mean, seriously, what the fuck?
I missed that.
So they're just wearing... What?
A pair of dogs wearing some weird as hell masks.
Oh,
and by the way, one other thing, if you guys already thought that was scary, not really. In fact, it just looks pretty stupid.
Yeah.
Well,
movie, you get a gold cut for that.
Anyway, moving on.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, as Lisa walks past the babyface dogs and makes her way into the boiler room, she eventually encounters Freddy, and tries to reason with Jesse to either knock to knock Freddy's shit off. And then we get probably the grossest scene of the movie.
And
Lisa
another one of the
actually-
coolest effects of the film, I must say.
But also one of the grosser moments. Lisa actually making out with Freddy Krueger.
Ugh.
I mean, honestly, just
Ugh.
I'm sure there's plenty of fan fiction about that, but nah.
Don't
I
make
wonder
me come
if
over
there's
there.
even a meme about it.
Anywho, after that big wet sloppy kiss, it's Freddy actually he starts to lose control, and eventually he's set on fire. As well as in the coolest effects of the movie, his flesh actually starts to melt off his face as he gets burnt to ashes. Then, of course, after Freddy quote unquote dies again, Jesse manages to come out of his costume of Krueger.
It's as if Freddy Krueger met a little bit of the Thing.
Which, to be honest, that would be a fucking interesting idea. Freddy Krueger versus the Thing. Who do you think would win the fight?
The Thing can be anyone. Anyway.
And then we get to the ending of the movie, which strangely shows is similar to the opening of the movie, back on a school bus, and with our main characters back on it. Right? The bus starts to speed up again, and Jesse panics and tells the driver to stop the bus, which he does. Which makes it feel like, and Lisa's friend says it's all over, until BAM! Freddy's hand pops out of her, and the bus drives off into the desert.
Another one of the coolest effects of the film.
Yep, and ending on just another what the hell moment.
And that's what they call bookends, which is basically you have something pretty similar, and then at the beginning and end. Like in this case, you had the bus driving, and it drove into the dangerous place. Then at the end, you had the bus driving, it stops, and then it goes again, and whoa, yeah.
So that was A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2: Freddy's Revenge. Gotta be honest, this is one of the weirder horror movies I've ever had to cover on our
But
reviews.
that's okay, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't mean weird in that bad way. I just mean weird in a strange way. Sort of like watching a few episodes of The Twilight Zone. You never know what to expect. All in all, my final thoughts: Freddy's Revenge is basically the kind of film you want to experiment with if you're trying to find something different in the horror movies. All in all, I give this movie a 7 out of 10.
What about you, Stein?
Yeah, my last final thoughts are, of course, first off is, the dogs with the weird baby masks. Yep, what the hell? Not really necessary. At least, of course, some of the acting and the characters in it are over the top and goofy at times, and some really silly and stupid moments, and some silly looking effects. But still, I'm glad as well there are some decent looking effects that are pretty well executed, I even think. Although the sweating as well looks fake as hell, and although Freddy in that has as usual looks cool and has badass one-liners, and I love also how they go a bit, at least expand a bit more on his storyline. Jesse is just okay. He's not very memorable in it, but he's not very lovable either. But still, on that, I honestly didn't mind this film. I actually might give Nightmare on Elm Street 2 a 6 out of 10.
And what about you, Spike?
Well, despite the bad representation, I do feel sorry for the LGBT community that they had to put up with this representation first and then get the good representations later. But, ultimately, I still think that it's a bit of a fun movie. One of the lesser ones to the franchise, honestly. I would put it down there second worst, but at least it's not boring. 5 was boring for a lot of it. And then the second one was, it was okay. Apart from the obvious stereotypes and wrong things and stuff. Now, because of that, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
All right. And now, I believe it's time we get into next week. We're getting into one of the more batshit movies of all time. We went from a strange film. Now we're going to a crazy film. So gas up the saw and make sure to have plenty of meat ready, because next week we're diving into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. So until then, on the Silver Screen Slasher.
And I'm the Cinemastein.
And I am George.
And we'll see you all.
And I'm George aka Spike Greene. And we'll see you all. Go on.
And we'll see you all later.
And remember,
see you next time, kiddies.
And remember, when you get to hell, tell them Freddy sent you. Bye.
Bye.